Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, and hi, welcome if you're new. My name is Megan. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a book related video, and this one is, as you can see from the title of the video, is my fall TBR list. So it's all the books that I'm hoping to try and get through in the next 3 months. So September, October, November. I know technically fall goes into December, but I think I might be trying to do like just a winter / December reading at that time. So fall, September, October, November. If you're interested in seeing what books are on my list, then keep watching. All right, so just a couple of notes before we get started. One, this video might be quite long, so if you haven't yet, grab a snack or a beverage of your choice, sit back and relax. Definitely feel free to listen to this as you're doing other things. Two, I'll try to give little blurbs about each of these books, but some of them I may not be familiar with. And also, I have a lot of books stacked up around me, so in order to keep the video moving, I may not do a blurb, or I might actually forget. So I'll make sure to say the name of the book and the author, so that way you can write it down and look up and do a little bit of research if that book sounds interesting to you. All right, just a few notes before we get started. First, if you hear any tapping in the background, that is my dog walking around because I've started filming a video. She hears my voice. She wants to know what's going on. Second, this video might be quite long. You'll be able to see how long it is exactly. So if you haven't, grab a snack, grab a beverage of your choice, sit back, relax, play this video while you're doing something else, like cleaning or whatever. And lastly, I'll try to give little blurbs about these books, but honestly, depending on time and I just might forget, but I'll try to give a little bit of a blurb about what the book's about, so that way you can decide if it's something you might be interested in reading yourself or not. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And I'm gonna start with this first book, which is one of the books that I'm actually in the middle of right now. A couple of these books are on my year-long TBR list, which was, there was only 5 books, but they were all tombs. This is one of them. This is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This is a book about a man who's written a kind of an academic type analysis about a documentary of a house, and this house is bigger on the inside than on the outside, and it's spooky and perplexing to the people that live in that house. So that's what House of Leaves is about in a nutshell. I am about 35% of the way through with this book right now. I'm hoping to finish it sooner rather than later. It's kind of spooky for me, so I'm right at the part where things are getting a little bit creepy and uncomfortable, so we'll see how it goes. If you're not familiar with the inside of House of Leaves, the formatting is really weird. It's almost like they've written it in a way to try and emulate the film narration of this documentary. So, which is kind of an interesting kind of way to look at it. So like there's this part where they're going down a spiral staircase and the words spiral. So that's just an example. I actually, as I'm reading this, I'm doing a vlog as well. I believe that will not be up by the time that this video is up, but once it is, I'll link it in the cards. And then also, once this vlog is up, you'll be able to see my thoughts on this as I'm reading through it. So that's the first book. The next book is another book that I have started, and that is Babel by R.F. Kuang. So this is a library bind-up version, which is why the book is so shiny, because of the covering. But this follows Robin Swift, who is an orphan as a result of a cholera outbreak in Canton, China. And he's brought to London by Professor Lovell. And this is in the early 1828 is what it says. And he's basically raised by Professor Lovell in a very strict academic setting, learning Greek, Latin, maintaining Chinese, as well as English language in preparation so that he can enter into Oxford University under the department where they work on like translation. The Royal Institute of Translation, which is also known as Babel. And as he's there, he starts to kind of realize that Britain's like the power issues that come in with Britain being a colonizer, being a colonizing country. And, you know, is he going to be loyal to Britain or to China? Because if he is loyal to one, he cannot be loyal to the other. So I think that's some of the questions that come into play, as well as the power that language and knowledge has and its effect on power. So I think that this is an interesting book. So far, I'm about, I think, 50 pages in, where he has just he's just arrived at Oxford University, and he's just moved in to his dormitory and has met, I don't know if it's his roommate, but it's a fellow like cohort, like peer, who is also not a white British man. He's I think from India originally. And so Robin has felt this sense of camaraderie, that like, oh, they share a similar background, where they came from a different country, not from Britain, came over here, are sponsored by somebody wealthy who's willing to kind of help prepare them for life at Oxford. So that is Babel. The next book is another library book, and this is The Comedian's Guide to Pride. This is by Haley Thompson. Here is the book. Again, another library bind up. And there's the AC going. I'm sorry about that. It's a little bit warm in here, so I'm gonna let the AC continue on. I apologize if that background noise is a little bit too much. But this book I started and I haven't had a chance to really continue with. This focuses on Taylor Parker, who they say she's always been a funny girl, but she's accepted as a finalist for a diverse writers internship at Saturday Night Live. And when she is accepted as a finalist, that's kind of a dramatic turn of events for her, because she wants to be a comedian, which her family doesn't agree with, because her family has a history of comedians in the family. I think both of her parents were comedians, and it just didn't quite work out. And then also she's a lesbian, and she hasn't come out to her family or friends yet. And so if she gets accepted for this internship at Saturday Night Live, it would mean being outed in a way. So I've read, I think, the first chapter or the first couple chapters where she gets the like, congratulations, you're a finalist notice, and she's like, can you just put me as anonymous right now, because I have to like talk to some family first about this whole situation. So I thought that this would be an interesting book. I was also kind of looking at this idea of the neon colors and the neon signage. This was actually going to fit one of my reading challenge prompts. So that's why I originally picked this, but I like the idea of this YA kind of comedic situation of this girl who's trying to find out herself and find a way to let her family know who she is. So that is The Comedian's Guide to Pride. All right, another book that I started a lot of books. I only get like 50 pages in. So this book is Ordinary Monsters, and this is by J.M. Miro. So again, another library bind up. So this one though, I've marked it with one of my son's socks. As you can hear, it's really crunchy. So this was a book that I had actually started reading at night once my son went to bed, but because it's so noisy, I stopped reading it because I didn't want to wake him up, because we are in the same room right now, which is why the reading is sometimes not always successful at night. So I've only finished chapter 1 in this book. I do know that this takes place in Victorian London, so 1882 in England, and it says 2 children with mysterious powers are hunted by a figure of darkness, a man made of smoke. I do know that when the book started, we kind of see that this girl has run away because she's, in the first chapter, this girl has run away because the place where she's worked at, there were like, the son in the family attempted to rape her, and then she, in self-defense, ended up killing him, and so she was being like hunted down by the father of the family. So she like jumps on a train to get away, and on this train she discovers this infant that is has been left behind. The mother has died, and in childbirth, and it looks like, and the baby's there, and she raises him as her own. And that's kind of what we see in the first chapter. And then I think from then on, it's gonna focus more on the child, because she finds out, and we find out as readers, that he has this kind of weird ability or power, like he emits like a blue energy. So let's see what it says. 16-year-old Charlie Ovid, despite a brutal childhood in Mississippi, doesn't have a scar on him. His body heals itself, whether he wants to or not. Marlowe, a foundling from a railway freight car, so that's the boy that I was talking about, shines with a strange bluish light. He can melt or mend flesh. So that's the part that I've learned and found out about. And it sounds really interesting, this idea of these characters that have these like special abilities or powers that are kind of seen as scary and unnatural, and how they're trying to, like, I think, figure things out and maybe avoid being hunted. So that is Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro. Continuing with the library book lineup, as you can see, I've checked out quite a few books from the library. The next one is Long Live the Pumpkin Queen, and this is definitely a kind of Halloween-y focused book. This is by Shay Earnshaw, and I have no idea what this is about. This is actually a group read for one of the readathon challenges that I'm doing. So this one says, Sally Skellington is the official newly minted Pumpkin Queen after a whirlwind courtship with her true love, Jack. Sally adores Jack with every inch of her fabric seams. If only she could say the same for her new role as Queen of Halloween Town. Cast into the spotlight and tasked with all sorts of queenly duties, Sally can't help wondering if she traded her captivity under Dr. Finkelstein for a different, albeit gilded, cage. But when Sally and Zero accidentally uncover a long hidden doorway to an ancient realm called Dreamtown, she unknowingly sets in motion a chain of sinister events that will put her future as Pumpkin Queen and the future of Halloween Town itself in jeopardy. So I think that might be kind of interesting. This kind of look at Sally from A Nightmare Before Christmas. Having a hard time saying words today. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. I have not started that, so that will be something probably more for October. Another one is this book here, and this is In a Garden Burning Gold, and this is by Rory Power. Again, another library bind up. And again, don't know really anything about this. I remember reading the blurb and being interested in it, and it says, twins imbued with incredible magic and near immortality will do anything to keep their family safe, even if it tears the siblings apart. It says this is the first book of a mythic epic fantasy duology from the best-selling author of Wilder Girls. So I like the idea that this is a duology and not a trilogy, because it just means that I'm more likely to finish the book series if I do enjoy this book. And I really like the cover. I am definitely someone who is attracted by covers. So again, kind of fantasy based. It sounds like there's magic involved. So that'll be for hopefully September, October. This one's kind of the odd book out. This one is Sadie on a Plate by Amanda Elliott. This one I think I picked up as part of a summer readathon challenge that I have not been able to finish, so I'm hoping to try and fit this in somewhere. This one is Sadie is a rising star in a trendy Seattle restaurant scene. She has a public breakup with her boss, who's a famous chef, and she's sure her career is over until she lands a spot on the next season of her favorite TV show, Chef Supreme. She, on her way to New York to film this TV show, she has this chemistry with her seatmate on the plane. And then she finds out that her seatmate is actually, well, it says when she discovers, when she turns up to set the next day, she makes a shocking discovery about who this guy is. So it seems like he is in some way related to the TV show in some way. I don't know if he's a fellow contestant or maybe like a judge or something, but it seems like he has a pretty important role where she is going to see him again, even though she's kind of said that she wouldn't be able to because she's doing something she's not supposed to tell people about because she's on this show. So I don't know how I'm gonna like this if I'm gonna like this or not. I literally just picked this up because it was like on the recommended like summer reads at the library. So we'll see, maybe. If I don't get to it, I'm not gonna be super sad about it. It's a would like to, but not terribly stressed if I don't. All right, I am missing the other book, book 3, volume 3, I mean, but this is volume 4. Volume 3 is somewhere in my bedroom. So this is Fence, and Fence is a comic or graphic novel that follows this boy, Nicholas, who's a high school student, and he wants to become like he wants to become an épée fencer, and he wants to basically become the best épée fencer that he can be. And he kind of finds himself in competition with another boy, Seiji, who is a high-ranked épée fencer, and they both find out that they end up coming to the same private school that focuses on fencing. Seiji is there to be on the team. Nicholas is also there to be on the team, but he's specifically on a sports scholarship. So if he does not get on the team, then he's kicked out of the private school. So he's like really gunning for one of these coveted spots on the school's fencing team. And so right now, volumes 1 and 2 has been a lot of them kind of doing the small like tournament competitions against each other. And in volume 3, they're really getting into the like the finals, like who's going to be on the team and who's not going to be on the team. So that's book 3. I don't know what book 4 is. The volume 4 is titled Rivals. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where that goes. I was initially interested in this because I used to be a fencer when I was in college, and for my undergraduate, I fenced for 4 years. Not épée, I fenced saber, which is, I say the superior weapon. I know many would argue if you're épée or foil, you would definitely argue against that. But I do like that it's a portrayal of fencing, and there is a competitive element to fencing that I think sometimes people don't know about or are not aware of, because it seems like such of a like classical sport. Yeah, so I think it's interesting. Nicholas, the main character that we're focusing on, is not trained in fencing at all, and all of the other people that all the other students that he's going up against in the books they've all been fencing for several years. So I really like this. Obviously, I'm reading volume 3, and we'll be reading volume 4 as well. So that's it for all of the library books. Now I'm gonna get into the books off of my physical shelf that I'm gonna try to read. So House of Leaves was one of the books that I physically own that I wanna try and read. Another one that I wanna read maybe in October or November. It kind of seems like a spooky season type of read, or a darker read, mostly because of the cover, and it's Dead Wake. This is The Last Crossing of the Lusitania by Erik Larson. So this is a historical fiction. Not really historical fiction, but more like a historical telling of the Lusitania. So here it says, on May 1st, 1915, with World War I entering its 10th month, a luxury ocean liner was richly appointed as an English country house. What? A luxury ocean liner as richly appointed as an English country house sailed out of New York, bound for Liverpool, carrying a record number of children and infants. And then basically, Germany not bombs, but they torpedo the Lusitania. So this kind of goes into that story of what happened leading up to the sinking of the Lusitania. I picked this up originally from a thrift store, so maybe I'll get a chance to read that. Another book for the month of October is The Perfect Stranger by Megan Miranda. I actually started this last year for October. I think I got about 2 pages in and then had to stop. Just was not what I was feeling at the time. Not in a bad way, just I wanted to move on to other books. So I'm gonna try it again this year and this October. This one talks about like secrets. So this one says, when Leah Stevens' career implodes, a chance meeting with her old friend Emmy Gray offers her the perfect opportunity to start over. Emmy convinces Leah to come live with her in rural Pennsylvania, and there are, there's jobs available. No one knows about Leah's past, or apparently Emmy's, and Emmy Gray disappears, and Leah realizes that she doesn't really know much about her friend at all, and she starts to, there's no evidence that Emmy Gray existed, and it says the police question if Emmy Gray existed at all, and they mark Leah as a prime suspect. Leah must uncover what's really going on about her so-called friend, as she's kind of struggling against the doubts of the police and her own sanity. So that is The Perfect Stranger by Megan Miranda. All right, the next few books are books that I've received in books subscription boxes in the last few months. So a lot of them are kind of like thriller mystery related. So I think that they would fit in nicely for the fall season. So the first one is The Woman in the Library, and this is by Sulari Gentile. So this one came in an unplugged book box. This was for the adult fiction box for July 2022. And this sounds like a really great thriller that I'd like to read. So this one is focused in the reading room at the Boston Public Library. So I thought that was great. I was like, if I had time, I could even read this in the Boston Public Library. Since I'm so close to it, I probably won't have time. But it says that the reading room at the Boston Public Library is quiet, which it is, until the tranquility is shattered by a woman's terrified screams. Security guards take charge immediately and instruct everyone inside to stay put until the threat is identified and contained. While they're waiting for the all clear, 4 strangers who happen to sit at the same table pass the time in conversation, and friendships are struck. Each has his or her own reason for being at the reading room that morning, and it so happens that one is a murderer. So I thought that was kind of interesting, especially since I'm familiar with the reading room at the Boston Public Library. It's kind of like the New York Library's big reading room, but like a little bit smaller. But it's that same sort of feel where you have like the reading lamps and the big long tables, and everybody's supposed to be quiet, and people also come in to take pictures at the edges of the room. But in general, people are there to study and be serious in their work. So the next one is The Book Eaters by Suni Dean, and this one was from a Caffeine and Legends monthly book box. I don't remember which month it was for, but it was the one for A Decadent Betrayal. It does not say what month this is though. Yeah, it doesn't have the month on it. But in this book, it says there are people who eat books and they retain all of the book's content after eating them. So they mention how it sounds like the character Devon is part of the families in capital letters, and it says an old reclusive clan of book eaters. Her brothers grew up feasting on stories of valor and adventure, so your typical like boy stories, and all the book eater women were raised on a carefully curated diet of fairy tales and cautionary stories. So it sounds like there's a very strong like traditional roles for men and women. And then it says Devon learns when her son is born that there's a rare and darker kind of hunger, not for books, but for human minds. So I thought that was kind of an interesting idea, that something a little bit darker than just eating books, that it's maybe more of like eating the ideas, and also has to do with family. I was talking so long and my throat got a little bit dry there. Okay, so let's continue. The next one is They Drown Our Daughters, and this is by Katrina Monroe. So this one is also from an unplugged book box. This is from the adult fiction box for August 2022. And again, another kind of dark thriller type book. So it says, they say Cape Disappointment is haunted. That's why tourists flock there in droves. Now the tourists are gone, and Meredith Strand and her young daughter go back to Meredith's childhood home. And so it says, it seems like there's a lot of regret that, that haunts this Cape. It's not actually haunted. Then it says her mother, suffering from the early stages of Alzheimer's, is convinced that ghost stories are real. Not only is there something in the water, but it's watching them, waiting for them, reaching out to Meredith's daughter in the way that it has to every woman in their line for generations. And if Meredith isn't careful, all 3 women will be lost one by one to the ocean's mournful call. So an interesting tale. Thought that was so it says it's a part modern, gothic, part ghost story. It explores motherhood, identity, and those sort of topics. And then the the last book that comes from a book box is this one, and this is Blood Scion by Deborah Fallais. And this one I received from Fairy Loot, so one of the exclusive Fairy Loot editions. So I started this one back in July. I've gotten to chapter 6, and then I had to put it down because there were other books that I wanted to prioritize first. But I do want to make sure I go back to this. The idea sounds intriguing to me, and I'm afraid that I've read enough where I don't want to have to go back and reread. I hate going back and rereading. I've done it with so many books, and I'm just tired. I don't want to do it. But at the same time, I want to remember what's happened in the part that I've read, which is why I usually go back and reread, because I feel like I haven't remembered everything. Anyway, long story short, I read this back in July, took a break after chapter 6 to prioritize other books, and I want to make sure I go back to this and finish reading it while the beginning is still fresh in my memory. So this one follows 15-year-old Sloane. She can incinerate an enemy at will because she's a scion, a descendant of the ancient Orisha gods, but under the brutal rule of the Lucas, her identity means death, and her mother knew as much. And it says the mother disappeared trying to hide Sloane's truth. So she basically gets conscripted into the Lucas army as soon as she turns 15. She just, like an unlucky draw, gets pulled into the army. And she realizes that, one, she can't escape, because if she escapes, it basically dooms her family because they kill anybody who runs away. And she also realizes that she has to conceal her power while she's there, because if she doesn't, then she will be killed. But she also recognizes that if she can join the army and kind of infiltrate the army, she might find out more about her mother's disappearance and kind of proof that the Lucas were responsible for her disappearance. So that's the story here. I got to the part where she just gets the letter saying that she has been drafted to join the army. So that is Blood Scion. 2 more books that I've started several months ago. I have not had a chance to go back to because I keep checking out books from the library and they get in the way because I want to finish them and return them to the library. But this is a book off of my physical TBR, and this is Pachinko by Min-Jin Lee. And this follows a family starting in the early 1900s. It's following a South Korean family, and I think it's like a story about the different generations on how a decision, it says, a woman's decision to abandon her home and reject her son's powerful father sets off a dramatic saga that will echo down through the generations. So I've just read the first few parts where it talks about the main character Sunja, like being born and being raised, and how she was like who her parents were when she was little. So I'm interested in reading this, obviously, which is why I started it. And I know that this has been made into a TV series, I think on, is it Netflix or Hulu? I know this was made into a series in January, so I would like to read this and then kind of see how it compares to the TV series. All right, my last book from my physical TBR list that I have in my place is this book here, and it is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. This is another book that is on my TBR list for the year of 2022. Honestly, am I gonna get through this before December? Probably not, because I have all these other books in a very precarious pile right in front of me that I have just gone over with you and need to get to first. So this one's gonna take a low priority. I probably won't get to this till December. I am about 100 pages in. I did start this back in like April or May, got 100 pages in, haven't had a chance to go back to it. But basically, this is again 19th century England, so we're looking at Victorian England, where Victorian England recognizes that magic exists, but no one knows how to use magic practically, except for one person who is Mr. Norrell. He reveals that he is a magician in the practical sense, where he actually knows how to practice magic. All the other magicians during this time are just theoretical. They all just talk about it, but don't actually know how to use it. And Mr. Norrell is looking to try and help England. He tries to help England in the war against France. There's another person, Jonathan Strange, who emerges and he becomes Mr. Norrell's student. And I think eventually their paths kind of diverge as I think they kind of understand or you decide to use magic in different ways. So this is like a historical alternate history where magic plays a huge part in the Napoleonic Wars. I thought this was really kind of an interesting premise where it's a little bit of historical fiction with this magical realism added in. I've heard a lot of good things about this book. It's also a huge tome, so my goal was to try and get through this sometime this year. Maybe I'll get it done in the fall. So those are all the books that I have right now. I was thinking of adding some books in that haven't been released yet. I think I mentioned that at the beginning of the video. I have since changed my mind because honestly, I don't know if I can get through all of these books that I've mentioned, and I would like to. So I think all the books that I'm interested in that are new releases, they are like new releases but haven't come out yet. I think they're planning to come out in like end of September, October. So I think I could probably push those into a winter read. For now, I'm gonna focus on these books that I physically have in front of me, either as library checkouts or as part of my own physical TBR list. So those are the books that I am going to try and read in the next 3 months for fall. Usually I average about 5 to 7 books a month. 1 month, I think I was able to get to 10 books, but that was like a really rare reading month and I was just speeding through it. I'm supposed to be going on vacation in the next couple of weeks for about 3 weeks, and because it's a family vacation, I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna have a whole lot of reading time. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, I'd love to hear what your kind of want to reads are for the fall season. Are there any specific books that kind of put you into the fall mood or the Halloween spooky season mood? Let me know down in the comments below. Also, if you've read any of the books that I've mentioned here, just let me know general thoughts. Did you like it, not like it? That way I have a sense of which ones to prioritize, which ones should I read first, and maybe which ones I can kind of push off until the very end. All right, thanks so much for watching. I will talk to you down in the comments and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.